Do you ever feel like you're absorbing the emotions of everyone around you? People often call themselves empaths, individuals who feel things so deeply that it can sometimes feel overwhelming. On social media, this has become a popular identity, and while some see it as a gift, others view it as a curse. I've noticed how easily I catch other people's stress. A friend shares their anxiety, and suddenly I feel it in my own body. Sometimes I wonder, does being too sensitive and understanding of others mean there is something wrong with me? At 6 seconds, we don't see empathy as a weakness but as one of the most powerful competencies of emotional intelligence. When you learn to use it effectively, empathy becomes a source of strength, connection, and resilience. So, let's explore the misconceptions and the research behind empathy. Empathy or empath? Breaking the myth of the sensitive type. The term empath evokes the image of a special type of person who possesses the ability to feel others' emotions more deeply than anyone else. That is the first misconception. Empathy is not a rare trait, but a human capability. Neuroscience and social neuroscience research shows that when we empathize with the emotional states of others, brain regions involved in shared emotional processing, including the anterior insula and parts of the cingulate cortex, typically become active, reflecting a neural overlap between the experiences of the self and others. This is how we experience empathy. What differs between individuals is the intensity and frequency with which these systems activate, and whether they are balanced by brain systems that help us maintain our perspective and view emotions objectively. Without that balance, the powerful messages of empathy can blur the boundaries between your emotions and those of others. With balance, empathy can help you connect with others while maintaining your own emotional integrity, becoming a skill we can cultivate to build trust in relationships. We see this paradox clearly in the healthcare field. In a study of nurses, higher emotional empathy was linked to compassion fatigue, a vivid example of what happens when resonance overwhelms the ability to regulate. This distinction is crucial. Pity can create distance. It risks placing one person below the other. Empathy creates connection, a sense of, we are in this together. The misconception is assuming that empathy and sympathy are interchangeable. In reality, empathy has many facets. Psychologists identify at least 3 types: cognitive empathy, understanding another's perspective; emotional empathy, feeling with them; and empathetic action, turning that empathy into supportive steps. Research in neuroscience and psychology shows that empathy, especially when it leads to action, predicts prosocial behaviors such as helping, caring, and cooperation, while sympathy is less certain to produce those outcomes. The challenge lies in the fact that sympathy can feel safer, because it acknowledges another's pain without requiring us to experience it. But the opportunity is deeper. Empathy asks more of us, and it opens the door to action. Whether it is helping, asking a thoughtful question, or simply being present, empathy moves us beyond recognition to response, and that is where trust and real change are built. The hidden power of empathy, a mighty source of energy for leaders and teams. The misconception is that compassion makes us weak or overly sensitive. The truth is the opposite. Compassion does not make us weaker. It makes us wiser. When we practice empathy in a balanced way, it becomes a leadership strength that drives better decisions and stronger relationships. Empathy can manifest through 4 leadership strengths that directly impact team performance. Observe surroundings by noticing the underlying dynamics that affect results. Quickly build trust by making people feel cared for, understood, and connected. Foster collaboration by creating space for multiple different perspectives. Spark creativity by viewing problems from the perspective of others. The challenge lies in the fact that some leaders hesitate to lean into empathy, fearing it will make them look weak or slow down decision-making. However, the opportunity is much greater. Empathy helps sharpen the ability to understand, strengthens trust, and drives engagement at work. Research has proven this. A recent study found that leaders who combine empathy with self-regulation are more effective at building team resilience and reducing turnover in tensions. Other studies indicate that leaders who are highly rated for empathy are consistently rated as more effective overall, with stronger collaboration and higher employee engagement. Zenger-Folkman discovered that leaders who frequently demonstrate behaviors that build trust and empathy, core outcomes of emotional intelligence, EQ, have a turnover rate 40% lower than others, along with higher productivity and satisfaction levels. Thus, empathy is not a soft skill to be taken lightly, it is a superpower for leadership and collaboration. The flip side of empathy: when excessive emotion causes harm. The misconception is that the more empathy, the better. In reality, empathy without boundaries can become overwhelming. Too much unchecked empathy can feel like an emotional tsunami. When we take on the pain of others as if it were our own, we risk burnout and compassion fatigue. A recent systematic review in the journal BMC Nursing found that empathy and burnout are closely linked. But their impact depends on mediating factors such as emotional regulation and self-care. Joe et al. 2025. This means that empathy itself is not the problem. It is unbalanced empathy that is the problem. It is important to note that neuroscientists warn us not to confuse empathy with empathetic distress. When empathy is unchecked, it can lead to emotional contagion, completely absorbing the stress of others to a point that exceeds our own capacity. It is this empathetic distress that leads to burnout and fatigue. Conversely, compassion, empathy combined with care, insight, and the ability to regulate has a protective effect. Studies show that compassion activates brain circuits that maintain resilience and mitigate the harm of emotional overload. The opportunity lies in transforming empathy from a source of burnout into a sustainable resource. When combined with emotional regulation, naming emotions, practicing self-care, and maintaining perspective, empathy moves beyond emotional contagion and becomes a stable, compassionate presence. EQ tools to protect your sensitivity and enhance your empathetic ability. If you identify as a highly sensitive person, the key is not to suppress empathy but to use it wisely. Research on self-compassion shows that simple practices can reduce stress and prevent burnout. Here are a few ways to keep empathy a source of strength rather than pressure. Focus on self-empathy. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Naming your own emotions first will help prevent emotional overload. Name the issue. Don't blame. Pay attention to others' emotions without letting yourself get caught up in them. I sense tension here, instead of, I feel tense. Shift from absorbing to choosing. Instead of carrying others' emotions, decide how you want to respond. These small changes transform sensitivity into strength, helping you hold your ground while using empathy as a resource. Closing. Sensitivity is your strength. Compassion is not weakness. It is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a signal, an open door, a path to connection. If you have ever been told you are too sensitive, remember, compassion is not a flaw. With awareness and practice, it becomes a superpower. So this month, notice where your compassion shows up. Practice recognizing both your own emotions and those of others. Protect your sensitivity, and let compassion be a source of strength, resilience, and connection.